Good evening and welcome to the September 16, 2025 City Council Regular Hybrid Meeting. I'm Mayor Salim Neese. This evening's hybrid City Council meeting is being brought to you in person and by Zoom. We're also broadcasting live on MITV Channel 21 and on the city's YouTube channel. Welcome and thanks for joining us tonight. Council members, please have your microphone turned on for roll call. Acting City Clerk Allie Speets, please call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Andrel. Councilmember Becker.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Weicker.
Here.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Here.
And Mayor Neese.
Here. And if you would note that Councilmember Reynolds and Weicker have joined remotely. Next, we have Pledge of Allegiance. If you're on Zoom, please turn off your video. If you're in council chambers, please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we now move to approval of tonight's agenda. If there's no questions, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, seconded by Councilmember Weinberg. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Becker.
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg.
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
Very good. Agenda is approved. And next up, we have the City Manager report, for which we welcome City Manager Jesse Baum.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I will ask Casey to help me with a screen share. Maybe not. All right. Ally, do you have that report up by chance? Thanks for your patience, council. All right, well, while we're waiting for oh, Allie's got it. I was gonna say, I know the first 3 or 4 slides by memory, so. All right. Sorry for that delay. Next slide, please. And the next one, council, just a quick look ahead at your upcoming schedule. Your next meeting is Tuesday, October 7th. Boards and commissions are back up and running after a short August recess. And just a reminder that all of their dates, the meeting dates are on our website. Planning Commission coming up next week, and Parks and Rec Commission will be meeting the first week in October. Next slide, please. Okay, well, if you don't know about the upcoming WashDOT project, that would be surprising. The city has really been pushing out a major communications campaign, letting our community know about this project and the impacts. We understand as of just about 5 minutes ago that the evening of Thursday, September 18th, that is this Thursday around 8 p.m., WashDOT will start closing down eastbound ramps. We know that for most of this closure, we will only have access to one eastbound ramp onto I-90. As a reminder, this project will replace the expansion joint that was identified as failing a couple of years ago. This is going to be a major impact to our community and to eastbound travel. We have done everything that we could to alert our community starting about a month ago. We're hoping that the project goes smoothly and perhaps even some things will move faster than anticipated. Council, we plan to keep up with this communications pace through this project as conditions are changing, to keep our community informed and certainly to keep you informed as well. Next slide, please. On another topic and project note. This is an update on the water main repair at East Mercer Way near Clark Beach Park. You may recall that we had several main breaks over the summer, and we have been working to replace that water main, those water mains. Really happy to report that we completed all of the flushing, testing, and returned homes in the area back to normal service. I think we had 5 homes on temporary service for several weeks. We are now working to replace, it's about 250 feet of the damaged pavement in the southbound driving lane. And that is also right near Clark Beach Park. And this will repair, we'll continue to work on repairs. We hope to have everything back to normal by the end of October. And I just want to thank everyone for their patience, including the school district, as they've had to modify some transportation routes because of this. So I'll continue to keep you updated on the status of the project. Again, looking for anticipated completion end of October. Next slide. Zooming out a bit, I didn't want to miss this moment, and I also don't want to steal the thunder from Public Works because I know they're going to be telling you more about this accomplishment when they do their capital project update in October. But we have concluded, very excited, 4 years of continuous construction and reinvestment at the city's water reservoir. And I know I've been updating you on all these projects, but they have tended to blend together a little bit. So to highlight, we've completed construction of a booster chlorination station. We replaced the emergency power generator at the reservoir and all the electrical panels. We recoated the inside and outside of both tanks. That's a project that needs to happen about every 20 years. We've installed new stairs and safety railings on the reservoirs. And we've replaced 5 main pumps and installed 2 new smaller jockey pumps, I believe is what they're referred to. So we're really proud of this work, and we thank you, Council, for your leadership and investment in this critical infrastructure over the last 4 years. And more coming, because the Public Works team will be here the second meeting in October to give you the whole snapshot of the capital program and where things stand. All right, next slide, please. Just a couple of heads up items for you. The Community Mobile Blood Drive will be happening here again, September 29th and September 30th at the Community Center. This is a partnership with the Chamber, and we're pleased to host the event here again. If you're interested in donating and registering, you go to Bloodworks Northwest to register. And getting ready for some spooky. We will be hosting the Town Center trick-or-treating. This year, it's actually on Halloween, Friday, October 31st, from 3:30 to 5:30 in the Town Center. That's always a lot of fun. So we encourage you to come out and join all of the trick-or-treaters and support our businesses. Next slide. I think I shared this with you in a weekly email, but I wanted to give a shout out to our sustainability team. At the end of August, the city successfully completed the PSE Green Power Challenge. This is a program that matches electricity use with renewable wind and solar energy, which helps to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and advance the city's climate action plan goals. We beat our goal of 100 new signups by signing up 108. So congrats. I know Alana has been working on this quite a bit the last several months. And because we achieved our goal, PSE will provide the city with a $10,000 grant towards a new community solar panel project on the island. And your question is, what project will that be? And we don't know yet, but we'll be talking with you about that soon. So congrats to the team on that. And I believe that is our last slide. Thank you.
Very good. I just a quick shout out to Will Aho, who became the new chief of Eastside Fire and Rescue, who's going to follow the huge footsteps of Ben Lane. So the board made that decision just the other day, and our own city manager, Jesse Baum, was involved in the interview panel. So I thank her for that. Next item of business is appearances, which is opportunity for anyone to speak to city council on any item except items requiring a public hearing, quasi judicial matters, campaign related matters. City Clerk, we have anyone signed up for public comment today? and that is
We-
present?
We have one person signed up, but they are not present. So
Okay,
we
we'll give
can-
it one more second for them to show up. Have they shown up?
no.
Okay, since there's no appearances, the consent agenda is our next item, which contains 9 items, which is available on the screen for review. I'll let that come up here briefly. Okay, there are the 9 items. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Anderall, seconded by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Aye.
Councilmember Anderl,
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye.
Councilmember Becker,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved. Our first item of regular business is AB 6776, the financial status update for the second quarter of 2025 and budget amending ordinance. And we welcome Finance Director Matt Mornick and Financial Analyst Ben Schumacher. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Neese, members of the council, and City Manager Bond. I'm Matt Mornick, your Finance Director. And beside me is Ben Schumacher, the city's financial analyst too, and my colleague in the Finance Department. We are also joined remotely by Deputy Finance Director Luan Tuttle, who is going to help us with steering the slide deck this evening. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to go through 15 slides tonight. Primarily focused on the city's financial position after the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. Before I hand it over to Ben to go through that, I would like to provide the City Council with just an update on a process change with how the city is sharing information about outgoing payments at the City Council's regular council meetings, as well as just some background into state laws that require how the city manages the public's resources via fund accounting. Hopefully, this is just going to provide a little bit of information and context that will help you as we go through the budget versus actuals for January through June 30th of 2025. As always, we'll have time at the end for questions. Next slide, please. On the consent calendar this evening was AB 6767, which is a standard agenda bill that includes an exhibit, which is the certification of claims report. Compared to prior reports, this report was slightly different in that it provided summary level information about the amount, when, and how all of the city's payments for goods and services were made over the last 2 weeks of August. This is a difference in comparison to how we were previously providing this information, which was a very detailed, lengthy certification of claims report. And so this process change is an improvement in that it provides more security around the city's finances, and it also leverages new internal controls that the city has in our financial management software system, where the city council members can now access the city's financial management software on a secure network and identify and go through all of the outgoing payment details, who we paid, how much we paid, when we made those payments in that financial management software. This process change is in line with state law, and it also abides by the guidance that we've received from the state auditor's office. I want to assure the council and the community that this detailed information about outgoing payments is still readily available. We're required to make sure that this information is available to the public, and we just request that members of the community submit a public records request, which you can see on the hyperlink that's presented on this slide. I would also just like to acknowledge Deputy Finance Director Luan Tuttle, our Accountant 2, Lindsay Mitchell, and our Accounts Payable Clerk, Ashley Olson. They did a great job just helping us fine tune this process change. And they do a great job every week, making sure that we make timely payments on all of the city's goods and services that we purchase on the community's behalf. Next slide. Local government revenues really vary between those that can be spent on general government services versus those that are required to be spent on very specific uses or purposes as outlined by state law or as set by local policy adopted by the city council. And so to track all of these various revenues, the city has established 19 separate funds that serve as separate and unique accounting entities. And the reason for this is that it allows us to track all of those specific revenue streams and the corresponding expenditures within a specific fund and make sure that those funds are held to account. And so the term fund balance, which is an accounting term, refers to the net difference between a given fund's assets and its liabilities at a current point in time. Next slide, please. We are required by the state to make sure that the city maintains a positive balance in each of our 19 funds at the end of each fiscal year. Under the current financial management policies that have been adopted and updated with some regularity by the city council, we have been directed by the council to invest this positive balance in the Washington State Local Government Investment Pool. And as of yesterday, there was $82 million in the city's account within the Local Government Investment Pool. And this ties back to all of the city's funds, the different funds. It's important to when you think about this number, that this is not available resources. This is working capital that keeps the city's operations running. And so most of these resources, in fact, have been committed by the city council via the adoption of the 2025-2026 biennial budget that lays out in detail the goals and the objectives, the city operations, the capital investments that we have been directed as staff to complete in the current biennium. The total amount of resources that are invested in the local government investment pool, this changes weekly as the city council approves, as I mentioned earlier, that outgoing payments certification of claims report, as well as payroll for the daily operations, as well as the major capital investments that are currently underway for the city. And within a given calendar year, at least in 2025, that amounts to over $100 million a year. Next slide, please. So I just share that with the hope that it provides some helpful context as we begin to look at the city's financial position as of the second quarter of 2025. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to financial analyst Ben Schumacher.
Thank you, Matt, and good evening, City Council. Like Matt said, my name is Ben Schumacher, financial analyst 2 here at the city. So next slide, please. Got about 7 to 8 slides to walk you through tonight. Just a brief update about where the city stands quarter 2 through 2025. So that's the end of June, just as a reminder. So just to highlight, you're going to see this slide probably in some form for the rest of the year. We did have an accounting procedure change that dated back to January 1, 2024. This was the city's transition from an accrual basis accounting method to the cash basis accounting method. What does this mean for the fiscal year financial status update in 2025? It just really impacts the year-over-year comparisons when we look back at 2024. There's no timing of revenue impacts to 2025, but we are going to see slightly impacted numbers in 2024 as we compare 25 to 24. So next slide, please. So this is our first table tonight. We got one more ready for you, but as we walk through this first one, on the left side, you're going to see our general fund revenue expenditures and our utility fund revenue expenditures. When we talk about utility funds, it's including all 3 of our enterprise funds. So that's the water fund, the sewer fund, and the stormwater fund. We sum them here just for discussion's sake. In our columns, you're going to see the first one is our 2025 amended budget numbers. We'll go to our quarter 2 2024 actuals compared to our quarter 2 2025 actuals in the 2 columns next. And then we have those 25 actuals versus the amended budget in that last column as a percentage. So starting with the general fund, you can see our revenues are 2.7 million higher in quarter 2 when compared to 2024. That is really a byproduct of sales tax being higher than the prior fiscal year, as well as interest earnings exceeding budget expectations. As far as our general fund expenditures, we're about 1.3 million higher in 2025 compared to 2024. That is really directly related to increased employee compensation costs in the form of cost of living adjustments and COLAs, you might hear them called, as well as increased benefit costs. And we did have increased insurance costs at the start of 2025. There was insurance costs went quite a bit up compared to 2024. Moving to our utility funds, if we see our revenues are about 1.1 million higher in 2025 compared to 2024. Those are directly related to rate increases that took effect on January 1 of 2025 that were approved by council. As a reminder, those rate increases for each utility were an 8% for the water, 4.5% for the sewer fund, and an 8% for the stormwater fund. When we look at our last line there in expenditures in our utility funds, you can see that we're about 4.2 million higher in 2025 compared to 2024. That really is directly related to the aggressive capital work that's happening in our public works and CIP programs for the utilities right now. There's once in a generation investment happening, and it's really reflected in that increased expenditure number. Next slide, please. To touch base on a few of those general fund revenues. So if we look at February through June for sales tax revenues, so sales tax is one of the revenues that was affected by the transition to cash basis. So if we do a true year-over-year comparison for 2025 to 2024 and just take February through June, we're still up $148,000. This is really two drivers on this one. It's inflationary impact. So as inflation stays high, goods cost more and we collect more sales tax on those goods, as well as increased activity in our construction sector. So that's gone up quite significantly compared to the last fiscal year. Interest earnings are also exceeding our budget expectations. One primary driver on this one, and that's going to be there's no federal funds target rate cuts since December of 2024. So our local government investment pool, true 30-day yield, so the same body of funds that Matt touched on recently, the yield that we get on that started this year at 4.6% on January 1 of 2025. And that has only decreased to about 4 or 3.9% at the end of June. So rates have remained higher than what staff originally anticipated when setting the budget for interest earnings. And so that revenue has exceeded our budget expectations. Next slide, please. Just to touch briefly on other city revenues, so revenues outside our general fund. It's going to be our REIT revenues, or real estate excise tax. As a reminder, these are our primary resource for the street and capital improvement funds. And these are subject to quite a bit of volatility. Just to highlight some of that, we saw a major swing in this revenue from specifically 2021 to 2022. In 2021, we had 503 recorded sales, which was a 15-year high. In 2022, and then 23 and 24, we've seen that drop to a new low since 2009, which, as the council might remember, we were in the midst of a financial crisis during that time. The most recent property sales number in 24 was 281 property sales at the end of the year. There is a silver lining. We have seen a higher number of property sales through the first half of 25 compared to 2024. So we're expecting the revenue to hold to budget expectations now, but it's looking like 25 is potentially more like 24 than different. Next slide, please. So we do have our second table of the night to highlight some of that REIT activity over the years. So walking through this table on the left side, we're going to track two of our statistics for REIT revenues. Our average properties sold per month is going to be that first line. And then the second line is our total revenues. We're looking at these through the first 6 months of each fiscal year in the preceding columns or in the following columns. So we're starting in 2021 all the way to 2025. Really, the point of this table is to highlight our really that 15-year high in average properties or in properties sold, and that was happening in 2021 with averaging 42 property sales per month in the first half of the year. And that has really fallen over the years to what we saw in 2024, which was 18. And then again, we're seeing a bit more in 2025 at 20 average property sales per month. Our revenue has slightly rebounded through the first 6 months of the year, but it is looking like 25 is more akin to 24 than different. Next slide, please. And then we come to our budget amending ordinance. So this Just as a reminder, these budget amending ordinances are adjustments to the city's budget via ordinance. They typically are quarterly in frequency and they're paired with a financial status update. The ordinance in front of you tonight, which is ordinance 2525, includes budget adjustments resulting from council action since May 20th of 2025. That was the last time an ordinance was brought forward to council for budget amendments. And so because there are no new recommendations in the budget amending ordinance tonight, next slide, please. Staff will recommend that council adopt ordinance number 2525, amending the 2025-2026 biennial budget. And then next slide, staff will open the floor to any questions the council may have.
Okay, very well. Council, any questions? Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Matt, I don't know if you can go back to the slide here, but slides 4 and 5, you sort of talk about the fund balance. Just want to take that up a level here for anyone maybe watching at home. Is it fair to say that, you talked about that 81 million in the LGIP, that money is best thought of money that is not just sort of sitting around waiting to be spent. It's money that we've already planned how we're going to spend it in support of different projects.
Yes, most of that money has been committed to projects, programs and services, acquisition of goods, investment in capital, as outlined in the 2025-2026 biennial budget.
Great.
It's,
Matt, can I have you just add to that? Because the revenue in that fund is not often flexible. So can you just explain, in those different funds, it's often supported by restricted revenues?
right. And City Manager Bond raises a good point. All of the resources from the city's 19 different funds that tie back to the positive balance within each fund, the city moves to the local government investment pool. And that's a real prudent decision because that allows the city to earn interest on our bottom line, and that helps the city's bottom line. But the point that City Manager Bond just made is that many of these revenues are restricted. And so any interest earnings that we earn on that positive balance in the water fund has to go back to the water fund. And that's a good thing because it goes to paying for the critical infrastructure improvements and the operations of the city's water distribution system.
Great. Thank you.
But just to dovetail onto that, if we spend about $100 million a year on expenditures, you're spending, 9 million or so a month. Do you bring in $9 million a month, or do you have kind of peaks and valleys in your cash inflows throughout the year?
Yeah, but thank you for the question. So the city's revenues are very irregular. And so the way I think of, and my colleagues think of, the investments in the LGIP, that is a working capital resource that helps make sure that the city's operations are covered through the entire calendar year. And for example, in April and October, that is when the city receipts our property tax payments from our residents. And that's when you see a peak in our revenue activity, but that activity declines from April all the way through the summer months until we get to October again. And so you'll see a climb in our balance in the local government investment pool after around the period of April, and that will draw down over time as we complete projects and pay for the services, the city services.
Okay. And so you would see a second peak in the fall when people make a second, and the bulk of our revenues is property tax revenue.
That's
And
correct.
so
Over 40% of
it's
the
very
city's.
seasonal.
That's right.
Okay. Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the questions just asked. I think the questions and the answers were very helpful. Mr. Mornick, can you just clarify for me in some of the questions I'd asked beforehand? You indicated the LGIP yield had been 543, and I think you said it's 439 or something like that now. But you never stayed in there that I saw what the budget assumed the yield would be. Do you have that number handy?
We anticipated that it would be about 3.75% at this point in the year. And so we were anticipating at the signals at the time from the Federal Reserve that there was a potential for rate cuts to the federal funding rate. And as a reminder, Council, there's a direct correlation between the federal funds rate and the interest earnings that come in from the local government investment pool. So those rate cuts did not happen.
Okay, may I, quick follow-up, Mr. Mayor?
You can.
Help me to understand how you develop the forecast of investment income. Does it reflect kind of a monthly cash flow model that says, here's how much we're getting each month and how much we're spending each month? Here's the balance by month. Here's the investment income by month. Or is it more of an annual thing where the budget just says, we've just got an annual dollar that's kind of based on an average balance during the year?
We structure the forecast on an annual basis, taking into account the most recent 2 years of information with the city's investments.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Ben, I don't apologize. I didn't submit this question in advance, but I'm sort of curious when you talk about the insurance question that those rates have gone up so much. Is that something we can quantify in terms of how much the rates have gone up in the last 2 years? I ask because I know that the city is, the school district is taking a look at this too, that their rates have gone up and trying to think of, is there a legislative avenue here? Is there a conversation with the state insurance commissioner just to make sure that she's aware? That might be something we can kind of dovetail with them, but I'm curious if this is like a material increase or sort of if we have a good explanation for it, or if we think it's, maybe undue or something along those lines.
We have no updates at this time, but that's something that city staff can look into and
Okay.
follow up with.
Thank you.
Okay, council, is there a motion to adopt ordinance number 25-25, amending the 2025-2026 biennial budget?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum, seconded by Councilmember Reynolds. Any discussion? All right, City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Androl,
Aye.
Councilmember Becker,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
Mayor Neese,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. That gets us to our next item of regular business, which is AB 6772 Code Amendments regarding e-motorcycle regulations, ordinance number 25C-24, second reading. We welcome City Manager Jesse Bond.
We got it? Yep. We decided it worked better when we have this many staff working on a project to just have everyone come to the front of the room. I believe we have a PowerPoint. I will turn it over to Amelia Chaden to kick it off, and then we have the whole team here to answer questions.
Good evening, Council. Amelia Chaden, Management Analyst. Good evening, Amelia Chaden, Management Analyst. And I will be kicking off tonight's presentation on AB 6772 regarding e-motorcycle regulations. Commander Seifert will walk you through the background of this issue and how enforcement is currently being conducted. And then I will walk you through what the ordinance does, how it has changed from its first reading, and what the next steps will be should the ordinance be adopted. With that, I will hand it over to Mike.
And good evening, Council. Mike Seifert, the Operations Commander with the Police Department. And I'll go somewhat quickly through this since we've gone through it several times. We've seen an increase in the usage of e-motorcycles, what we're calling e-motorcycles here on Mercer Island, and dangerous behavior and complaints and people concerned about something happening and hoping that we'll get ahead of the problem and do something before there's a major incident that we all wish we could have avoided. What we're seeing with e-motorcycles is basically you have this class of vehicle that kind of snuck in with e-bicycles. E-bicycles are clearly laid out as what they are with the RCWs. They're defined as class 1, 2, and 3 bicycles. They're things that are pedaled. These e-motorcycles came in on the market with kind of the e-bicycle title, and as is sometimes the case with new technology, the legislation hasn't kept up with it. So what we are trying to do here is develop the legislation that allows us to do enforcement on these e-motorcycles that aren't necessarily treated as a real e-motorcycle would be if you were to go to a motorcycle dealership, and are definitely not e-bikes. Currently, when we see a youth is usually who we see, but all ages are on the island riding e-motorcycles. But currently, when we see somebody, we will try to stop them. If they are of driving age, we can treat this as a normal traffic stop and enforce whatever laws that are being broken based on whatever the officer sees. But with a lot of these, we're seeing 12 to 15-year-old people that are riding these, and they're not licensed drivers. They're not aware that they're riding a vehicle because of, they were able to buy it without taking the steps that a vehicle normally needs to go through. So what we do is we call the parents, we try to educate. The school resource officer has been very active, mostly at the middle school, which is where we're seeing this predominantly, but the high school and some of the elementary schools as well. And it's been a big push for education. So these are vehicles, you need to treat them as such. They're unsafe. It's not okay to drive them and ride them on city property. So if we see somebody doing it, we'll contact them, contact their parents. We'll have the vehicle taken off the road. They pick it up, take it back somehow. And we hope not to see that specific kid again. And it's a kind of a one-off way of dealing with the problem. Next slide, please. Where we're having issues is specifically with that 12 to 15-year-old group is there's not an easy way to enforce the law. So King County Juvenile Court handles juvenile cases. The exception to that would be if you're a 16 or 17-year-old licensed driver and you commit a traffic offense, that can go into our city court. If you're 15 or below, our city court cannot handle any sort of offenses, any sort of infraction or traffic ticket. It has to be a criminal infraction and it has to go to King County Juvenile Court. King County juvenile prosecutors have told us if we have a crime that ties everything together, they will add infractions to that. But in our history and what we're seeing due to their filing standards and just how busy they are, they're not going to spend a lot of time taking these cases. So the proposed legislation that we're talking here tonight is to fill that gap and give us at least something we can do to better educate and enforce safety with these e-motorcycles on the island.
Thank you, Commander Seifert. I will now talk about the proposed ordinance. As a refresher, council, the proposed ordinance would adopt a definition for an electric motorcycle. It would prohibit the operation of an e-motorcycle by any person who does not have a valid driver's license with a motorcycle endorsement. It would also prohibit the operation of any e-motorcycle that does not display a valid license plate. The proposed ordinance would prohibit the operation of e-motorcycles on any sidewalk, pedestrian path, and within public parks, as well as establish the ability for the police department to impound an e-motorcycle. Violations of these regulations are subject to penalties of $250 on the first offense, $500 on the second offense, and $750 on the third or any subsequent offenses. Under the proposed ordinance, an electric motorcycle means a motorcycle as defined by state law, which is powered by an electric motor and is not equipped with fully operable pedals capable of propelling it, or has a motor with a power output that exceeds 750 watts, or has a motor that continues to power the vehicle after it reaches the speed of 28 miles per hour. This definition would include the e-motorcycles and e-dirt bikes seen on the island. It would also include e-bikes that have been modified to exceed 28 miles per hour, as well as vehicles powered solely by a throttle but do not go faster than 28 miles per hour. Over the next few slides, I'm going to take you through a photo tour of the vehicles that would be included under this definition. So starting us off, council, you have seen this slide before. On the left, we have the Talaria Sting, and on the right, we have the EKX21. Each of these vehicles is well over the 750 watt maximum for the motor and will continue to power the vehicle after it has reached a speed of 28 miles per hour. Notably, the Talaria does not have operable pedals, but the EKX21 does if you look at the photo on the screen. Under our proposed definition, both bikes would fall into the definition of an electric motorcycle. Another vehicle that would fall under the proposed definition is the Tutio ARC 1. While this vehicle has a power output of 750 watts and a top speed of 22 miles per hour, it does not have operable pedals, meaning this vehicle is powered only by the throttle and its electric motor, making it an electric motorcycle under this definition. On the right, we have a modified Class 2 e-bike, which according to its owner, the vehicle was modified to have an 8,000 watt motor and a top speed of 47 miles per hour. So while this vehicle started as a legal Class 2 e-bike, it has been modified to meet the definition of an electric motorcycle under this ordinance. Council, you have also seen this slide before. Under the proposed ordinance, traditional electric motorcycles like the Harley and the Zero seen on the screen would also fall into the definition of an e-motorcycle and would be subject to the regulations. We heard your feedback from the first reading and adjusted the ordinance accordingly. The definition of an electric motorcycle was updated to make the clause about the vehicle having operable pedals conditional and to clarify that the motor would continue to power the vehicle after it reaches the speed of 28 miles per hour. Section 10.53.010 was amended to remove reference to individuals under 16, as state law requires a person to be 16 years old to obtain a driver's license. This section was also amended to remove reference to registering a vehicle with the Washington State Department of Licensing, though e-motorcycles must display a valid license plate issued by a state or comparable government agency. A section was added to the ordinance to require people operating an electric motorcycle to wear a motorcycle helmet. This not only improves safety, but gives the police department an additional tool for enforcement. The section around park rules was amended to require operators of motor vehicles to be properly licensed. Earlier in this presentation, Commander Seifert walked us through the two issues limiting enforcement, and while this ordinance does not fully solve these two issues, the regulations provide law enforcement with tools to reduce the number of e-motorcycles seen on Mercer Island, to diminish the threat to public safety, and to assign a monetary penalty for violations. Impounding a vehicle and requiring the parent or the owner to retrieve it, plus the penalties for violations, are powerful educational mechanisms alerting the community to the dangers of these vehicles. If adopted, the ordinance would go into effect on January 1 of next year. Between now and the beginning of next year, staff will establish the process for impoundment, which may include updating Chapter 10.22 of the City Code and the city's fee schedule. Staff will also determine where e-motorcycles will be stored once impounded and set the process for how to retrieve an impounded e-motorcycle. This has some nuance to it, as the police department is currently working out of temporary trailers due to the closure of City Hall, hence the lead time for these items. As this issue is relatively new, staff will continue to evaluate the effectiveness of the proposed regulations and update them as the situation progresses to meet the emerging needs. Additionally, work is underway on establishing regulations for e-bikes. This work will require a separate ordinance that staff plan to present in the coming months, and will require collaboration with the Parks and Recreation Commission as well as the Open Space Conservancy Trust. Staff are planning a joint meeting between these two bodies in the coming months. With that, the possibility of instituting a parental responsibility clause where the burden of the violation would shift from the minor to the parent or the owner of the vehicle is being explored. If deemed possible, staff will return with this clause for City Council consideration. Staff started an outreach campaign on e-bike and e-motorcycle safety last year. Staff will continue to work on this outreach campaign after the adoption of the ordinance and will shift messaging to promote the new regulations across existing channels. And finally, City Council staff are working with the Association of Washington Cities and other regional partners to see if there is potential for state legislative action. In an exciting update, AWC will host a call with various jurisdictions in the region to begin discussing e-motorcycles and e-dirt bikes in either late September or early October. Staff have determined that the best place to start is requesting an updated or a modernized definition of e-motorcycles and e-dirt bikes. Though I do want to note that the legislative process is often tedious, and this would be the first bite of an apple, but it may take multiple years and many smaller bills to address this issue in full. And with that, I will turn it back to you for any questions.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Council, opening up for questions. Councilmember Anderall.
Yeah, thanks. I actually didn't mind the reference to minimum age of 16 because I do understand that there are states that allow motorcycle endorsements at a younger age. I don't see that, a lot of children from Alabama are going to be coming up here to ride, but did you take that into consideration when you removed that provision?
Do you want to take that, Bio? Right.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi. We took into consideration that there would be people riding regular electric motorcycles that would be coming from out of state with valid licenses from their states. And that, if just like if somebody who is riding a regular motorcycle that's registered and they have a license for it in Alabama or whether it be Colorado, and however age that would be, that they would be allowed to ride it in Washington and on Mercer Island too. So that's the reasoning that we took, and that's the reason why we removed the reference for 16 years of age, as well as the licensing requirements to be specifically from Washington State.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yes, thanks very much for all your work on this incredibly tough problem. I think the ordinance is much improved from the prior round, so thank you. My question, you say that the impound process rules will be worked on between now and the end of the year. Will that include decisions on what the fees will be for impound recovery? And is that the decision made by the police, by the city manager, come to the council? How is that resolved?
That will be included in the fee resolution that the council adopts towards the end of the year for 2026. Yeah, that will be coming from the recommendation from the police department on how much it costs to impound and all the administrative, time and effort that goes into it to recover some of that cost.
So shall I interpret that to mean that it's intended to be a cost recovery sort of fee as opposed to a punitive fee? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, it cannot be a punitive fee.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, Lisa, you might have to discover our next tourism campaign. I'm going to pull forward from my council reports here, but I shared a lot of this with the PTA council last week, and Amelia, to give you a lot of credit here, I just read off your presentation, and they thought it was, it made a lot of sense in terms of the approach, and I've been hearing a lot of feedback from them. It's something that they really wanted to see us do. It was important to the students and school community. So they thought this was a good approach, and obviously excited to sort of see what the next steps will be. But thanks for all your effort on this.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Weinberg.
Yeah, hi. So I have no concerns with the e-motorcycle ordinance, which has been proposed tonight. This is great work. Good first step towards more comprehensive motor vehicle legislation that we're going to be working on between now and Q1, along with the copious opportunities for the public to give input I'm glad to hear there's going to be a joint meeting of the Parks Board and the Open Space Conservancy Trust, where there'll be a chance for appearances as well. So great work. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Becker.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. I appreciate all the work here. I think you've done a great job. I specifically have a question that's related to this and to e-bikes in general in terms of reporting. I see lots of people ask about like when they see actions that happen, and I think the recommendation from the city is to call 911. And I'm just curious if you can clarify, like, just for like, once this goes into effect and once the community sees this and like, what should they do? Like, we do want, like, to what extent do we want people calling 911, reporting things like this when they see things that are making?
So kind of
Not
the
allowed.
rule of thumb that we give people is if something's ongoing or if there's any sort of ongoing threat, it's always best to call 911. And if there's an officer available, they'll get there as soon as they're able to. What we don't want people to do, some of the questions we receive from the community are, should I be recording these events and sending them over? We don't want to create a situation where there's an argument or something worse than an argument between somebody riding an e-motorcycle and a citizen trying to report them. So anytime there's something ongoing, call 911. If it's not ongoing, it's something you saw or a pattern that you're reporting that you'd like us to look into, the non-emergency dispatch number is perfect.
Okay.
Mike, can I ask you to just say a little bit more? I know I fielded some questions about why we're not accepting video evidence, and that's not a standard we use. Can you, I'm sorry to put you on the spot with that.
So there's quite a few issues with that. First of all, it does create a potential safety issue. If I'm a person out riding an e-motorcycle and I don't want to be filmed doing something that may be illegal, that may put the person who's filming me at risk. And we're never going to encourage that. It's not that level of a crime where we'd want to put somebody anywhere near taking those sort of risks. Also, there's certain things we can accept as evidence and certain things we can't. So there's going to be a chain of evidence issue where we don't know 100% what it is we're looking at when we film, especially nowadays with how easily film and video can be manipulated. It's always best to have the officer see it themselves. The officer can testify to what they saw.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Reynolds.
Sorry, that was an old hand.
Okay, just a quick question. You had said in the ordinance that you have to have a motorcycle helmet. Could you just speak briefly to the difference between, let's say, a full face bicycle helmet and a motorcycle helmet?
Yes, so motorcycle helmets are determined by the Department of Transportation if they're motorcycle rated, basically, and they get a sticker that they put on it, which allows for officers to easily enforce that. Based on the speeds that we're seeing these e-motorcycles go, a regular bicycle helmet is potentially not going to provide the level of protection necessary.
Excellent. Okay, council, any other questions, any discussion? Nope. All right, I'll be looking for a motion to adopt ordinance number 25C-24, amending Title 10 of Mercer City Code related to electric motorcycles as presented in Exhibit 1.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Weinberg, seconded by Councilmember Becker. Any discussion? City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Becker,
Aye.
Councilmember Anderl,
Aye.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds,
Aye.
Mayor Neese.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Our last item of regular business is AB 6779, Public Safety and Maintenance Facility Site Zoning. We welcome Chief of Operations Jason Kittner. Remotely, I presume. Welcome.
He's here.
In person.
No, there we go. There we go. Okay. Good evening, Jason Kittner, Chief of Operations. Thank you. With me is Kelly Hilly and Robbie Cunningham Adams to talk about the public safety and maintenance facility zoning. Just quick background for the council. You'll recall back in April at the city council meeting, the PSM project team design team presented a recommended change to the site layout based on the value engineering that would move the PSM facility forward. And the operations building forward north to the site. Originally, it was set back, and I'll show you a couple of slides here in a second to walk you through that. That proposed site layout and moving the building forward, reduce construction costs, increase that operational efficiencies, and left space for future additional operational capacity to ensure that building could serve the city over the course of the next 50 years. So just to refresh the council's memory, on the screen, you see the initial facility site plan. You can see the PSM facility was actually located further back on the property. This was the original layout. And then in April, the next slide, we actually moved that PSM building, operation building forward. Everything shifted forward on the site. Next slide. Currently, the Public Works facility and City Hall have different zoning. The Public Works parcel is currently a split zone and its zone is R84 and commercial office. And the City Hall parcel is currently zoned as commercial office. Both parcels have a public facility land use designation. And in April, the council directed the city manager to pursue a boundary line adjustment between the two parcels based on the final PSM site layout. And prepare that rezone application of the South City Hall parcel to public institution. The north parcel in front of City Hall, existing City Hall, was recommended to remain as commercial office. Again, all this information is presented in April on AB 6656. So here is what the existing parcel zoning is designated as. So you can see where the current Public Works facility sits. It's currently R84 with a conditional use permit. And where City Hall currently sits, it's zoned as commercial. As staff began to get into the pre-application process, we started looking at the critical areas of the site. Staff realized that where the zoning that was discussed with council in April was going to restrict the site before we actually got further in the design process, it really constricted our ability to pursue further design on the site without some additional considerations. So what's being proposed tonight is to rezone both parcels as public institutions. So that would be the full 13.62 acres. So that under a single zoning designation, so that the PSM facility layout can be advanced and consistent with those development regulations. Regardless of what happens with the PSM facility, it's beneficial for the city to have both parcels zoned as PI and in the correct zoning rather than a conditional use permit. So the motion tonight is to direct the city manager or designee to prepare and submit a rezone application to rezone both parcels, the City Hall parcel and the Public Works and Operation Facility parcel, to public institution and appropriate $22,064 from the general fund to help with those permit review fees.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Couple more
Sorry.
slides. Just so in front of you is, you can see the where the proposed public institution parcel layout will be with the updated zoning designation on the screen in front of you. So again, both parcels will be rezoned to public institution. Next slide. And so our next steps tonight are to, upon approval, we'll prepare and submit that rezoning application. Again, that rezone work needs to be completed before those permits are submitted for the project in mid to late 2026. The need for a boundary line adjustment can be revisited later after the final site layout is confirmed. Currently, we're only at 30% design. Once we reach 60% design, we'll be able to understand whether or not a boundary line adjustment is still feasible on the site. And the city manager will work with our legal counsel and staff to bring this item back to the council later in 2025 or early 2026. So with that, we're here for questions.
Okay, thanks for that. Council, any questions? Any discussion? Councilmember Reynolds.
Just a quick one. Refresh my memory. It sounds like this does not need to go through the planning commission for the rezone. And is that true? And if so, why?
Oh, it absolutely does.
Oh, okay.
Your authorization tonight is giving me, and there's Jeff, giving me permission to apply. And Councilmember Reynolds, one of the reasons I wanted to come back and check in with you is this is a site-specific rezone. As soon as the Public Works Department submits the rezone application, this becomes a quasi-judicial matter. And since I was, after we analyzed this, I was going in a slightly different direction than the motion that you passed in April. I spoke to the mayor and we decided to come back and check in with you before I submitted that application, because I won't be able to have this type of discussion with you after the application is filed. So it will go through a whole process. If you'd like to know that process, Jeff Thomas knows it better than I do, and he just came on screen.
That you've probably told me enough at this point. Thank you.
Okay, so council, if you took the hint, this is your time to ask questions on this matter. It's going to become infeasible later. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Jason, can you, on one of the last slides, you had a bullet about how this is a best practice to sort of, get out of the CUP and go into the correct zone. Can you just give a quick reason why that's the best practice?
So it makes both parcels consistent. I'm actually gonna ask Kelly Hilly to step in and talk about it further because she knows this much, much better than I do as well.
Okay, slide it up there. Council, I will share, I don't know the history of why over several decades the city did not pursue rezoning the public works, the back parcel, because we've been operating, that's our primary maintenance operations, and it's zoned residential with the conditional use permit. So it's been on our list to get that resolved. I will just say generally, our construction project splits across both parcels. And I think as the design progresses, the buildings may move a little bit more as well for consistency and permitting, given that we're going to be operating and using nearly the full 13 acres. It makes sense for us to have alignment of zoning across both parcels. I will also say, I'm stealing your thunder, Kelly, sorry about that. The use will match the zone, will match the comp plan. That's always our goal. We have been looking at all of the city properties for potential applicability to be a PI zone. Did I miss anything?
No, just to answer your question about the CUP, it just adds another process, which adds more time. And just doing the rezone and aligning it with the comp plan and complying with the design standards that are already in the code makes sense. So we're just trying to be efficient with time and resources moving forward with anything that does happen on City Hall property.
Great. Well, we're all about efficiency. So
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Not seeing any other discussion. Is there a motion to direct the city manager or designee to prepare and submit a rezone application to rezone City Hall parcels 9655500185 and 26555000075 from R 8.4 and commercial office CO to public institution PI to appropriate $22,064 from the general fund unassigned balance for associated permit review fees.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councilmember Anderall, seconded by Councilmember Becker. City Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Weicker,
Aye.
Councilmember Becker,
Aye.
Councilmember Anderell,
Hi.
Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum,
Aye.
Councilmember Weinberg,
Aye.
Mayor Neese,
Aye.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Aye.
All right, motion passes, which brings us to other business in the planning schedule. And Jesse Bond.
No updates from me, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, any council member absences to report? Not seeing any. Gets us to council member reports. Deputy Mayor Rosenbaum.
Yeah, I want to commend the Mercer Island Chamber of Commerce. They had their Art and Cork event last week, which was great. Very well attended. The weather worked out really well, so that was great. I think I shared my other piece of news earlier. Appreciate nothing else.
Okay, I have nothing to report. Councilmember Weicker.
Yeah, the utility board met, I think it was last week, and got a preview of rates and all the different factors that feed into that. So I think when you see that coming up, the utility board's done some great work there, and we're doing our best to manage maintenance and operations and future planning and the many partners we have to keep our utilities strong. So really appreciate you guys paying attention to that when it comes forward.
Okay, Councilmember Weinberg.
So next monthly open lunch is going to be this Sunday at noon. It's the 21st at Anise Thai Restaurant. The address is 7691 Southeast 27th Street. As always, all are welcome. It's an open agenda, news, sports, weather, humor, even questions about city business if you like. All I ask is that everyone show their respects to the chef by ordering some food and or beverage, and let me know if you're coming so I can reserve a large enough table.
Okay, Councilmember Reynolds.
Yeah, greetings from the world's smallest hotel room. Just wanted to pass on that the Parks Commission met last week. Good and interesting meeting. We took a field trip out to preview the proposed redesign of Dean's Park, and in particular discuss the various options, the Woodsy Wonders or the Quest, I think they were called, something like that. Both look pretty exciting. The group had a clear preference for one of the two, but I can't recall which one it was right now. But it was pretty exciting either way.
Excellent. Councilmember Anderell.
Nothing to report.
Councilmember Becker.
Nothing to report.
Okay, the next hybrid meeting of the city council is scheduled for Tuesday, October 7, 2025 at 5 PM. The time is now 6:04 PM. The city council will go into executive session for approximately 30 minutes to review the performance of a public employee pursuant to RCW 42.30.1101G. As a reminder to council, please stay seated until the broadcast has been terminated. Thanks for joining us tonight.